had my first incident where I was in danger. I had an issue underwater that could have really put my life in jeopardy.
Right.
And that was a stern reminder of how fragile life is. But it
Yeah.
was also a really revolutionary moment for me in terms of my personal growth.
You become better for not only you, but the people you love and care about most. You gotta be a little uncomfortable and take that leap of faith. You're in control of the process. I'm here with you. If we don't continue to grow, if we don't continue to move on, we will be sad and upset. Welcome back to another episode of the Talk to Tanner Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercises to help make you the absolute best version of yourself, not only for yourself, but for the people you love and care about most. Personal development is what we're all about here. And we have another exciting episode, 243, and we're actually bringing on a guest. We have in here a studio, a rock star real estate agent, social media coach, overall influencer, and just a great guy. I've been really obsessed with his content over the last couple of weeks. Been excited to virtually meet Matt and kind of go over what he's doing in real estate, how he's applying it to another business, and how can you be competitive in such a competitive space. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring Matt onto the show. Good morning, Matt. Thanks for coming onto the show this morning. Really appreciate it.
Excited to be here. We were talking about it a little bit before I hopped on, but I love this concept just in general of getting your day started, getting it started with some content to hopefully make you better in life. So super interesting, super great theory to bring into the world and a motivational way to start for me. So looking forward to a conversation.
Are you like a momentum person? Like when it comes to if you have a good morning, do you have a great day, or does that really not matter to you?
Oh,
As
I'll
much?
take it even one step further. I feel like momentum in my life builds over months or even over quarters, right? I feel the second I take my eye off the ball, that becomes a couple hours, which become a couple days, which I might feel 3 months later in my business. So for me, I'm constantly focused on keeping my business and my personal momentum moving forward, hopefully at the same rate.
Yeah. Well, momentum and in the Chicago market, is that a question? Do you actually get asked that question that much, or is that like a marketing ploy for a lot of real estate agents? Like, so if you wouldn't mind answering that question for us, like how is the market? We were talking about momentum. Like, do
Mhm.
you see momentum in the market? I know there's all crazy stuff, bank failures, but rates coming down a little bit. I
Right.
mean, how is the market?
That question is probably the most common question I get asked, and unfortunately, it's one that requires such a complex answer. It's hard to
Right.
dig in, but what I can say at a 10,000 foot is Chicago is a complex city. We have condos, single family homes, multi-unit investments, and we have a huge population of renters and tenants out there. So
Mm-hmm.
every market is operating slightly differently from the other, and then you've got to break that down even further. We have 77 neighborhoods, and each of the 77 neighborhoods has their own market dynamic on top of the inventory type. So, when I get that question on a broad scale, really all I can do is answer broadly. And if we're looking across product types, across the neighborhoods, Chicago is up year over year. We're appreciating. We have an inventory crisis. We have about 1 to 2 months inventory in most neighborhoods. I think the highest in the city is somewhere around 3 right now. So, I mean, Chicago is a city that is defined by pent up demand and a lack of inventory. And that's probably not exclusive to Chicago, but it's certainly the story we're seeing right now.
Yeah. It seems I don't really understand it super well. But it seems like the affordable housing crisis in most metro areas. There's just so many people, lack of inventory. If you don't mind me.
Affordable housing is a problem nationwide, I would say. That's actually, I'm a huge advocate of getting involved with something like Habitat for Humanity and building affordable housing because I don't think we have enough of it. But
Mhm.
I think, if we're looking at the city itself, two things are driving the lack of inventory for people on the lower end in particular. Number one is new construction has come to pretty much a screeching halt. The only cranes we see in Chicago that are up right now, they're building luxury rental high rise, which I couldn't explain to you where the demand of that is coming from, but that's what they're building right now. And it's not the other side of the market. Right. And then
Yeah.
if we look at who is buying what, the result of interest rates going so high and inventory being so limited is that it's ultra competitive at each price point, and the people above you are sliding down. So if you were buying at 500, now the person who was buying at 750 or 700 is priced out of their market. They can't find anything. But hey, they could get a really nice home at 500 or 550 and it's comfortably in their affordability even at higher interest rates. So they slide down to the fives. Now that five buyer has no inventory. They can't compete. They can't keep up with those prices. So they slide down to four. What happens to the four buyers? They slide down to three, right? So it's kind of this chain effect of as people who are in a slightly better financial position to make an offer on a home start to focus on what you're looking at, you become priced out of your own market and you have to shift. And you can only shift so far because the low end of the market has gotten more expensive. So it's a really interesting dynamic right now of people shifting focus, sacrificing more than maybe they're used to find a home, but that home is being taken away from somebody else who was buying at that price point.
I always feel the doom and gloom and the pressure when I talk big macro, like economics in general. There's always something kind of coming in,
Mhm.
but then these cities continue to appreciate. People continue to work, and so it's kind of hard to find that balance of like, okay, the prices are shifting. There's not a lot available, but as the rates come down and hopefully more people can have more options and get into the houses that they want. Speaking more on specifically for you, what is your ideal piece of property that you like to sell? I was pulling up your website and I wanted to pull up one of your listings. I didn't know if you have a specific type of property that you're really enjoying selling these days, or where was this one that I really liked?
I love that one. That's 849 Franklin. I can tell you from the floor plan and the roof deck alone. So
Yeah.
that's in River North, right downtown. I love working in that market. Where I service in the city is really the Chicago metro area. I don't really go out of the city into the suburbs. I refer that. I focus on our city downtown market. So this is a prime example of what I'm dealing with every single day, right? High rise inventory, several hundred units in the building. This is a condo unit, so you get condo access, you have HOA fees, you have a reserve to deal with. You may or may not get things like parking or storage, and they might come at an additional cost.
Mm.
So this home actually, we just sold this week, so that was a big win for my
Oh,
team.
congratulations.
Yeah,
Nice.
thank you very much. I took that listing over. It was on market, gosh, I want to say 8 or 9 months before I stepped in. And believe it or not, a refresh on the marketing strategy is all it needed. New photos, new video, a little bit better SEO. We connected with a buyer out of New York who bought it sight unseen. They've probably seen it for the first time today.
Phenomenal. Well, they shout out to them. Thanks for coming over to beautiful city of Chicago. I'm sure you
That's right.
greatly appreciate it
Welcome.
as
Welcome
well.
home.
I was reading up on you talking about marketing. I liked a lot of your content and kind of the things that you're putting out there for your buyers, potential, just even people who invest in real estate like myself and just kind of like what you have to say. Have you always been into marketing? What kind of got you into the social media route of things, and how's that kind of going for you?
When you look back at your career path, I always love to tell people just take a minute and think about how you got where you got, because there are probably points along the way that were huge pivotal moments in how the rest of your life is going to go. And you didn't even recognize it when you were in it.
Yeah,
And for
for
me,
sure.
I go back, I have a marketing degree. I graduated from Notre Dame in 2014. I have a
Oh, cool.
degree
Yeah.
in marketing. And while I
Mhm.
was in college, I started interning for a Fortune 500 company called NetApp. And I was employee number 3 on their social media team. So at that time, I was tasked with establishing social media governance, getting our C-level executives on Twitter, which was a huge initiative, and starting to ghostwrite and ghost run some accounts for people who didn't want to do it. And that was my first introduction to not only social media, which of course I had used personally, but social for business and the application of using social media as a way to connect with consumers and clients that you aren't already connected with and introduce your brand to them. And I love that idea. I kind of packed it in the back of my mind. I went and got lost in corporate sales for a number of years. And then all of a sudden I decided, listen, I want to transition careers. I knew I wanted to go into real estate, and that marketing brain kicked back in. It was like, okay, you're in the business of branding yourself. The sales part. That's
Yeah.
not the most difficult part of this job, in my opinion. It's more, how do you market yourself, your business, your brand, so that you can then deliver high quality sales to as many people as possible. And that's a very different shift. I am a salesperson at the end of the day, but my marketing strategy, my branding is how I do business. That's how I grow a business.
Yeah, no, beautifully said. I'm going to pull up your YouTube channel. This is where I've been watching most of Matt's content lately. Really, I was really surprised on a few of them when you were talking about things that you were worried about, and the reasons why deals can sometimes fall through. That was really appreciated. Or even if you're renting in the market, kind of what it actually takes to get going. I highly encourage reaching out to Matt. And if you're renting in the Chicagoland area, with being able to market yourself and continue to put yourself out there, do you have I think everyone's obsessed with routines right now. It's like, I'm not going to do anything until I know the perfect way to do it. And sometimes
Yeah.
we can get into how that can be limiting. But do you, for yourself, have a routine for making content? It's like, okay, Sunday at 3:00, I do this. Or you kind of just what's kind of your process with this right now?
I'm a huge believer in time blocking for most everything in my
Okay,
business, and
cool.
I do that with social media as well. The way I delineate time blocking has changed over time, but it's usually built into what I actually need to do for that specific task. So I have a time blocked on my calendar. Actually, today, shortly after we get off this call, I have a time block to film for about 2 hours. So I'm going to film a couple YouTube videos. I'm going to film some short-term content. I've got a whole, Excel list documented out of just ideas of what I want to put on camera. I'm going to
Yeah.
get that done today. I'm going to go back to my real estate life. And then I have another time block. I don't remember if it's this evening or tomorrow, where I'm going to edit, right? So you break things down into the actual functional steps, which is filming, editing, and posting. And I do
Mhm.
those sort of in a rotating scale. I'm a big believer in staying organized. So I use as many tools as possible to do that. Excel, I'm still old school. So I do an Excel list of my
Yeah,
ideas.
Excel's.
But I have Trello, and I love Trello. I use that for workflow and tracking where I'm at in my business. I do have a CRM as well. And within my CRM, I do make reminders for myself to do certain things. I also use Google Calendar to do the same thing. So, social is one of those things that if you are making videos, making content, marketing really in general, it's going to be the last thing you think of if you don't prioritize it. It's easy to get sucked in email. It's easy to get caught doing your job. It's easy to forget that we have to be doing this sort of back end work, if you will.
Yeah,
And you
consistently,
got to
right?
come
That's
back to it.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. The being able to kind of lay it out and maybe be intentional. I know one of my personal fears is I was so scared that it would just suck. Like what you're putting out is like, wow, I think we're all our own. Maybe you agree, we're all our own biggest critic. Like, oh, this, I don't know if that's got the sauce of what I'm trying to be saying to these people, and then maybe not. Did you have kind of that in the beginning, or were you kind of just like, I don't really care, I'm going gun ho on this? Because I know a lot of people
I
have a
think
hard
I
time
just
doing
had the opinion that it didn't matter.
beautiful. Yeah.
Or maybe what I should say is, in the beginning, I was so convinced it would work, I didn't care that I might be bad at it. When I came into real estate, it was like I only see one logical way to market in this industry. I was like, that is social media and video content. I'm thinking
Mhm.
of who I'm competing with. Ryan Serhant closes billions of dollars of real estate a year with a B. How do I compete with that marketing budget? I don't. I can't. If he's spending money on anything, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
So where can I do something that's free that could take away equally as many eyeballs and potentially drive my business to a bigger scale? That's social media, right? Like there's no cost of entry to get in here and start sharing expertise. So that was where the switch for me happened. I was so convinced that this idea was where I needed to focus my effort that I didn't care about what it looked like or how I felt about it. And all I focused on over time was improving my skills so that I got more comfortable with the product. I got better at editing. I got better at filming. I figured out how to put a light on my face, certain things just to make it so that it looks better for me, if nothing else. but I wasn't eliminating, as we started this call, the process of momentum. Keep the ball moving forward. Start posting, keep growing.
So you edit your own videos, or do you hire out a video editor?
It's a mix now. In the
Okay.
beginning, I edited everything. Yeah, I edited it all through the ingrained apps themselves. A lot of
Mhm.
CapCut, or I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm pretty good at it at this point, years in. But
Okay. Yeah.
I was doing editing on my podcast, my short form, my long form for years. It's only recently that I started to use a mix of AI editing tools and then an actual editor in the background to do some things for me. Just I don't have the cycles anymore.
Yeah, I just recently started paying somebody to do it because there's something about it I didn't really enjoy. But yeah, your content looks great, man, and it's awesome that you're creating a team effort. Speaking of teams, I wanted to ask you a question on, so you is it just you? Are you a one right now? I'm a one person business, and then I
Mhm.
hire everything else out, like the video editing, some scheduling stuff. Like I hire that stuff out, but and then I'm a one person business. How is your business kind of set up in for real estate specifically? Do you have a team, like an assistant, or is it you and then you hire out? How's that look for you?
Yeah, I like to run a lean shop. I've leaned away purposely so from running a mega team type setup. No shade on anybody specifically, but I tend to believe the quality of service goes down when the numbers get so large. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think I'm here to service my clients as best I can, not to grow the biggest business that I can. And again, there's like a very fine line in how you think about things, but how you guide your business is important. And I'm focused on delivering high quality service to my clients. And the way that I have enabled that over time is I bring in resources who are better, smarter than me at what they do, and I have them ready to go. So I have a media team, I've got a staging professional. These are people that are not employed on payroll by me, but they're
Yeah.
one phone call away within 48 hours to take over and step in on an engagement. We have a rotating assistant program within our office so that we can actually get assistants on deals for paperwork without hiring a full time assistant. I've been using that for a while now. We also have a rotating showing assistance option. So I can put out an all call to every agent in my company and say, hey, listen, I need help getting the showing done. You pay per, event. And that's how I've been able to scale beyond myself if I've got 2 appointments at 5 on any given day. So not to say I won't hire eventually, but really the focus has been how can I deliver as high quality service as I can and as lean a shop as I can, and let's see where that goes. And it's continued to grow over the last several years. Most of the money that I invest goes directly back into my clients.
Shoot, I mean, there's some agents that I've met that, man, they just didn't even answer their phones when I was trying to get a hold of them. And there's something about the quality touch when you don't need somebody until you need them. I'm
Mhm.
sure you know this dearly with your deals, but just being there for your clients and then showing so much care for them. Seems like it's going a really long way for you. So, anyone out there who's looking kind of get started and stuff, I mean, if you can just answer your phone very consistently and
Yeah.
help people, it's like, yeah, you got a chance. You can really do some good deals and help people out.
I can't tell you how many opportunities I've gotten just because I respond to that like random text that's
Yeah.
almost certainly spam that says, "Hi, is this Matt?"
Uh-huh.
I mean, you get some weird introductions in this business, but the person who responds and sort of leans into every opportunity in an intelligent way, you can really find some good business out there.
Not being scared to reply, show up, help people out. I gotta why so there's numbers of brokerages out there.
Yeah.
I see, Remax, the app properties, Fulton Grace, that Bird and Warner. Why Bird and Warner? And was it? And then, if you don't mind, kind of things that you've been learning about the brokerage and why you like it and don't like it.
If you've not interviewed for a brokerage before, it's one of the more interesting things you'll ever do. It was the first time in my life where it was an interview. I was interviewing with them, but I was
Mhm.
also interviewing them, right? It's this weird simultaneous evaluation going on because you both have to pick each
Yeah.
other.
Mhm.
And so I think that while I was there, I started to really realize, okay, I need to be focusing less on here's what I can deliver to you because I know that I will deliver good quality services. It's more what can you bring to my business that will enable me to do that? And how will you support me along my mission of growth? And so when I was doing my early stage interviews, I was really focused on that. It was, what is your culture around learning? What is your culture around mentorship? What is your culture around supporting your agents, particularly new agents with high expectations for their business? And Baird and Warner had all the right answers for me. They weren't so large that their corporate training had been diluted down to something that everybody can understand. They weren't so large that they had out-focused the Chicago market. You know, Baird and Warner is local. They're only on the north side of Illinois. We just expanded to an office in Naples, Florida, but we don't have coverage and we don't have tens of thousands of agents, which for me created, I don't want to say a small culture, but it created a culture where I felt I could make an impact, a culture where I could actually make change on a company level or get involved with my peers from a leadership stance rather than fighting into kind of national conglomerate that's been around forever. So, you know, with all that in mind, then it was just about finding where physically where I wanted to practice. And I walked into the Baird and Warner Lincoln Park office and I had a conversation with my existing managing broker, David Bailey. And he, to this day, is a mentor who I trust to guide me through my business. He's somebody who I turn to when I'm in the darkest of corners in real estate. And that is an important thing to have, knowing that when you run out of answers yourself, when you hit an immovable object and you need help getting it done, you have somebody in your corner. And Baird and Warner, David Bailey, my office, they are my corner and have been for many years.
No man is an island, even in the world. And the creator economy, I think, is only going to get bigger with these social media platforms, one person business. But nobody still does this stuff alone. Anyone kind of listening to us, and just even so we apply for ourselves, having the right people in your corner, the company that supports you. That's awesome that you guys have made such a match. And it is a weird process, I think, really unique, that you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you to make sure and try and make it this beautiful match. But the goal is, I'd imagine, to be with brokerage for a really long time. I see most of the agents that do really well have been doing it for decades. So being able to stay in the long haul.
Yeah.
And
I would argue most agents, the good ones, separate from their brokerage, right? They tend to become known for what they do, and the brokerage is there to support them. If anything, the brokerage is hanging on to them because they want to keep their volume. But you know, when you look at these really great agents and really great brokerages, the way that they tend to get along copacetically is really great brokerages enable agents to be great, and great agents will always excel past the brokerage, but they stay in the places that support them well. So, you know, there's a reason people stay where they stay.
Well, for our fans and for content purposes, hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot. Do you mind sharing one wild story from a real estate transaction? Is there anything that percolates when I say like a wild story? I've heard lots of horror stories in transactions, people buying properties. This can be anything about real estate. Is anything come to mind or anything?
Gosh, you work long enough in this industry, particularly in a big city like Chicago, you get some stories for sure. So, I mean, I've got everything from, you know, people not moving out when they were supposed to on closing days, getting robbed on showings, finding people in homes where they're not supposed to be. I mean, there's a million places you could take this. I think the first story that comes to mind, and one that I've told comically through the years, whether you believe in ghosts or not, there are physical disclosures in some states about whether or not you need to disclose if a home is haunted or if you believe there to be paranormal activity. We're not one of them. So you get to tour these homes, and that's not something that's on the surface.
Yeah.
I did this multi-unit tour. It was this older man, sweet as can be, walked me through the whole property. He'd owned it for about 50 years. We get to the top floor. There's an attic. We're about to walk upstairs, and he stopped. He'd led the whole tour. He'd walked in front of me the whole time. He stopped in the stairs and said, "Go ahead." And I said, "Oh, you don't go up there?" He said, "No." I said, "Why don't you go in the attic?" And he responded, and I tell you what, the hair is already standing on my neck. He just said haunted and looked at me and stared and waited for me to decide what I was going to do in that moment.
Yeah.
So I was touring for somebody remotely. I was filming the walkthrough, and I was like, I got to go up there. You know, I have to go film the attic. So I did begrudgingly, and I stuck the phone through and just filmed it. It wasn't much in there. It was just an empty room with a single chair, which I guess is creepy on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But I will never forget. I mean, he believed to his core that he did not need to go up there because it was haunted, and it was up to me if I was willing to take that risk on. So you see all kinds of interesting things.
Hey, that's earning your commission there. being able, hey, they say realtors don't do anything, something, but that's
Talk
what's
about earning an interesting phone call with my buyer. How'd it go? Well, everything looks fine, but we had an
yeah.
interesting conversation about the attic.
Say it with confidence. Totally
That's right.
fine. It's I've always heard not to get into paranormal talks, but yeah, the if it's not if it's light out, I'm probably okay. If it's
Yeah.
dark and it's night, wintertime showings and stuff at 5 p.m., that's when it could maybe get a little sketchy, I suppose. But
My
that's
advice
one.
really, on a more practical sense, and I know that the ghost stuff is fun, but we do a lot of showings in vacant properties in real estate. And the nature of a vacant property is that it sometimes encourages behavior that's less than ideal.
Yeah.
You get some crime, you get some squatters, you get things like that. So one thing I've definitely learned over time is to be safe. Let people know where you're going. If you're afraid to enter somewhere alone, bring somebody with you. If you
Yep.
have that spidey sense in the back of your head about not entering somewhere, you're probably right and don't go
Mhm.
in. So yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of times where people are in areas they're not supposed to be, and usually I'm the one to find that. So
Interesting job. Always different. Despite it's nice and spicy variety. I wanted to kind of shift over and change. What's if you don't mind sharing with us, I think one of the things that really makes us so skilled and talented is our ability to overcome these challenges, whether we're fighting ghosts in the attic or we're just trying to make sure that the property's ready to go. What is one of your biggest challenges at the moment? And if you don't mind telling us how you're kind of trying to combat this and put things into place with that.
this is a very difficult market to transact in. We don't have a lot of inventory, so when things do come on market, buyers aren't all that dissimilar from each other. If I'm working with 5 to 10 buyers and 4 or 5 of them want to find 2 beds on the north side of Chicago, with such limited inventory, the struggle I'm running into is I'm showing the same thing to multiple people, right? And then we're getting into bidding wars against each other. And so what I'm really struggling with in the market right now is we don't have enough inventory to service our buyers at the moment. And what it's creating is a really chaotic real estate market. Really similar to what we saw 2 years ago or the beginning of last year, kind of calmed down for 6 months and now it's back. So I think my biggest challenge is trying to educate my buyers on what to do with limited inventory and how to navigate these multiple offer situations. And in some ways, to bring those sellers who are on the fence about selling right now to market sooner so that we can try and service what we actually need to service. I get a lot of pushback when I say somebody should sell right now. You have people who are like, why? I mean, I have my home locked 3% interest. It's a financial loss. Why would I do that?
For
Every
sure.
situation is different. And you have people who maybe they're preparing to have a child, maybe they're getting divorced, maybe they're relocating for work and they can't rent their home out. There's a million reasons why you might need to move. And you're
Yep.
not sure if you want to do that now or let's say 9 months from now. You have a sliding scale. So my whole spiel that I'm giving to everybody is trying to get the market to engage now while the opportunity exists, because I don't know what 6 months from now is going to look like. And I have no thoughts on whether it's going to be better or worse for the buyers or sellers than it is right now.
I wanted to jump over to personal development.
Hmm.
Um, Talk about personal development. This is really the meat and potatoes of here what we do. I do coaching, so really under that's my main focus, and always trying to become obsessed with like what does personal development mean, because it seems like it's so different for everybody else. Whether you feel like you need to move at a super rapid pace or you like to take things slow. What does personal development mean to you in like a broad sense?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. I think you should continue to push the skill sets you already have and to dive into new interests and explore. So, for me, personal development is challenging myself to learn something new. Recently I've learned how to dive maybe way too deep into Chat GPT, right? Not something I
Yeah.
natively know how to use, not something I've done before, but I saw an application for my business and decided it was worthwhile to invest time learning, practicing, exploring what I could do with it, right? So, Adobe Premiere Pro started the same way. Hey, I'm going to need to edit things. I don't know how to do it. What can I learn to make that skill better? And that was where that came in. So, for me, I'm always trying to look in life at what is interesting to me, what is needed for me that I could take on and just learn a new skill set. And then how can I challenge myself outside of my comfort zones? I am a scuba diver, and I keep getting new
Oh,
certifications
cool.
and going to new places to dive. And I had actually last November, I had my first incident where I was in danger. I had an issue underwater that could have really put my life in jeopardy.
Wow.
And that was a stern reminder of how fragile life is. But it
Yeah.
was also a really revolutionary moment for me in terms of my personal growth, because I didn't die and I was able to get through it. And I did know my training well enough to get out of the circumstances. And it was a confidence booster, right? I was in a scenario where I did not have control, but I was able to navigate those waters and get out of it safely. And I think that's a huge lesson to bring back to your business. And you only get certain lessons like that if you're exploring your most intimate personal interests.
Wow. Do you dive in Lake Michigan at all?
I have not, and I have to get my next certification to do it. So Lake Michigan is a dry suit only dive because it's freezing cold. So I have to go get a dry suit certification to go down. But there are supposedly some of the best diving in the world is in Lake Michigan. They've got some old merchant
Really?
ships that are down at the bottom,
Yeah.
and there's some lines straight down so you can get there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Log live diving.
Dang, that is super cool.
Yeah.
Man, if anyone doesn't know, Lake Michigan is very cold water.
Yeah.
I don't know the temperature on it. It's like
I
35
I wish
degrees,
I knew off the top
but
of my head, but
yeah,
cold. Even
it's
even in August,
probably
it's
less than
cold.
40. It's
Yeah.
not, yeah, it's not warm.
Yeah,
But
I prefer
no,
to go, like, to the Bahamas or Belize or Mexico or,
yeah,
somewhere
very
warm.
cool. With so you have scuba diving. Chicago's a city of, I mean, the aside from the food being really good, sometimes it can be tough if you're trying to follow a diet living in Chicago.
Mhm.
But is there any other hobbies or interests that you have? What's it kind of, how do you feel about work-life balance? Are you able to kind of turn off and be able to go dive? Is that what you use diving for? Or kind of like how's this kind of all balance out with your interests and work?
That's such an interesting question. Such an interesting topic in general, the whole work-life balance. I think a lot of people wanna boil it down and make it very simple, but the reality is to build something great, you're probably gonna have a pretty skewed work-life balance for at least some period of time. To
Hmm.
me, work and my life are intertwined always. I mean, do I take time to step back and step away? Absolutely. And I think for me, the balance portion is leveraging my business to the point where I can take a 2-week vacation and go diving because I'm able to do that, right? But it's less so making it so that I have to go dive on a consistent basis and working that into my daily routine. If I have a lot to do with work, work will supersede my dive trip, right? I just need to balance and then eventually make it worthwhile. The way that I handle every day, when here in the city, some of the things that I like to do, for example, I do CrossFit a few times a week, and that's something I'm pretty active in.
Oh,
On the
cool.
weekends, I no longer do open houses. I felt like it was like fishing. It was an ineffective way to meet buyers and sellers. So
Yeah.
instead, I spend my weekends purposely with friends doing lunches, brunches, even just drinks. And more opportunity has come from investing in those opportunities. And I don't
Yeah.
want to use the word networking because they're friends of mine, but just by
Mhm.
focusing on the relationship and reminding people what you do, that has served my business 10 times over. So for me, the work life balance, work never really goes away. In fact, when I'm in my life balance, the thing I'm asked most is what's going on in real estate. People want to add, they know I'm the real estate guy, so they ask me real estate questions. So even
Mhm.
in my personal life, real estate doesn't go away. Um, if I could encourage anybody, particularly a new agent trying to aim and figure out what work life balance looks like for you, come to some understanding of what you want your life to look like and find a comfortable position to support that. Not everybody needs to be a $500 million in volume team. Not everybody needs to make $500,000 a year. Figure out what's comfortable for you, structure your business around that, deliver great service to your clients, and then make sure you leave enough time so that you have personal life and that you can step away and sort of take that downtime. But, there's no such thing as work life balance in and of itself.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you worded that. I mean, this is usually a piece that a lot we do a lot in coaching is, you're creating that ideal life. I think it can be so easy to fall into the trap of you pick your career and then you pick the lifestyle that matches your career, when I would argue that what you really want is you want to be able to pick your lifestyle and then pick the career that matches your lifestyle, so we can be able to. But personally, right after college, I was in such in a rush to try and make some money that
Hmm.
that type of ideology just flew out of my head immediately. It's like, whatever, just try and like hit the grindstone. And sometimes that can make it make the quality of our work go down. So, and it's kind of cool with you being in real estate, you're able to do these brunches. And at the end of the day, real estate, real relationships are so heavily tied together. You're able to go to this, have a good, enjoy yourself, and then also still be working towards something that brings a lot of fulfillment to you, and like the growth and the quality
For
of what
sure.
you
And
do.
it's funny, it's to prove this point. I recently did a survey. This was on LinkedIn, and I asked my following base, how did you meet and eventually decide on working with your real estate agent? And I gave them four options. Number one was
Mhm.
cold call or cold email or
Yeah.
cold mailing letter. Number
Mhm.
two was open house. Walked in and met him in an open house. Number three was saw him on social media. And number four was personal referral or friend or sphere. And that
Mhm.
poll, there were only two categories that got votes. 97% of people said they picked their real estate agent through referral, personal sphere, or a friend. The other
Incredible.
three was social media. So
Mhm.
all cold calling, mailing, sitting open houses, at least in this small pool, was completely ineffective in growing a business for a real estate professional. The only thing that mattered was the relationships, and to some extent, backing that up with social media clout. So to me, that was a really strong
Yeah.
reminder of that time is valuable. It might feel like brunch, but your ability to have a conversation at brunch about somebody's lease coming to an end in 3 months and then follow up on that conversation with an email or a text to make it an actual tangible opportunity is the difference between you having something to eat because you close a check in June and them renting and not telling you about it. And I
Yeah.
think that's the key that some people miss is there's the game that's happening within the game here, which is our whole job is relationship focus. So within your relationships, how are you delivering your skill set? Not in a salesy way. You shouldn't just be showing up to every brunch and being like, "Hey, let me tell you what I can sell you this week."
Yeah.
But how are you actually approaching with earnesty and how you can help your friends? I mean, who doesn't want to help your friends and family first?
Yeah.
And I think I try to make that a business focus more so than an afterthought.
Listening, hearing what they really need, and then how following up with
Yeah.
man, shoot, just following up seems like one of the hardest things to do in business, but really the follow up is where it's at. I wish I would have known
Almost
that
all
sooner.
all buyers or tenants out there, the number one reason that they're dissatisfied with their real estate agent is they don't hear from them. They literally don't hear from them. It's not that they don't understand what's happening; they just don't hear anything from
Yeah.
their agent. No follow up, no follow through. So, I mean, yeah, to your point, answer your phone, respond to messages, get back to people, follow up
Mhm.
on something you say you're going to do. I mean, it sounds easy, but those little
Yeah.
things can really separate you not only as a business professional, but just as a person. People like people who are responsive.
So I gotta know what's this is I always love doing this with my clients, working with people. And what is the number one goal for you in 2023?
This is a great question. So, my real estate portfolio has slowly expanded over time.
Okay.
And I've now changed in how I deliver services to my clients. So, I run multiple Airbnbs, including in my basement in this home here in Chicago. I
Cool.
have a standard long term rental standing in West Loop. And then I'm also working to coach other real estate agents on improving their business and growing specifically their brand through social media. So I've
Okay.
got quite a few different legs going at once on top of, oh yeah, I sell real estate every single day, right?
Yeah.
So for me, my number one goal for 2023 is really that of like a business operator. My goal is to make it so that I can properly service now what has become, four segments of my business without being worn too thin. And I'm hyper focused on refining my processes for each, refining my ability to automate certain things, specifically within communication throughout, and of defining resources so that I don't have to be as hands on with my investments, with my editing, with everything. So, really, my goal this year is less so like let's go close $20 million, which is actually my volume goal. And I'll put it in writing right now. So 20 million, we can check back and see how I get against it.
All right.
But I do think, it's more a business operator goal. I want to refine my systems. I want to make it so that I'm automated as much as possible and leveraged away from the day-to-day tasks so that I can focus on growing each without being stuck in, sort of operator mode.
Yeah. What's so kind of moving through Airbnbs, you hear so much about them, and then in cities it can be complicated. Do you is that something you're definitely continuing to try and grow? Are you not worried about regulations and stuff like that? Is it not as crazy as people make it out to be? What's up with you and Airbnb?
Great question. Here in Chicago, we believe it or not, we're one of the least friendly Airbnb cities in the United States, I would argue. We have very tight license laws on getting your Airbnb approval. We're anti-investors getting licenses for Airbnb. We've cracked down on certain neighborhoods for Airbnb. So it's certainly a difficult city to get a foothold in. That said, I think the premise on its own still has a lot of value. So, for example, I manage a duplex in Peoria. In Peoria, Illinois, a 2-bedroom on a 12-month lease probably rents for about $850 to $900. We've got a furnished rental. That same 2-bedroom space is renting between 1850 and 2000 for a month for short to midterm rentals. So my owner is effectively doubling the profit. I'm just their manager on that property, so I take about a 20% commission on the monthly, and everybody's still winning ahead of what they would do in a traditional rental market. And I tell that story because I do think you hear all this doom and gloom out there about, oh, the Airbnb sky is falling.
Yeah.
Airbnb sky is falling as much as the real estate market is collapsing. It is
Yeah.
no longer skyrocketing. It is no longer super easy to make money hand over fist, but you can
Yeah.
absolutely make great returns on Airbnb. And in many cases, the returns on that, even with hiring property management, will far exceed what you could do on a normal 12-month lease.
Interesting.
So I think that's where the value in Airbnb exists. Every local market is tough. Every local market has changing dynamics and different laws that you're going to need to work around. I am hesitant to leverage myself to a point where I'm reliant on a single market of Airbnb income for that reason. But I am pro diversifying your investments into properties that can be used for Airbnb for most people. I think it's a really lucrative way to approach it.
What made you want to get started in Airbnb? Was it just kind of the hearing the hoopla of making good money in it, or you just knew about it for a long time? Your family's done it. Like, what got you into that?
I was looking for some time to purchase an Airbnb on my own. I've worked with investors through the years, coworkers, mentors, some of which have completely leveraged their entire, financial income via Airbnb, some of which just do it passively. But it,
Mhm.
it just felt logical to me that I would take my license, which already covers property management, and sort of roll it over into this Airbnb side of things. I know the resources,
Mhm.
I know what's needed, I know how to take good listing photos, I know how to decorate. So I felt like I had the skill sets to actually stand up and service and advertise an Airbnb, and that's proven to be true. So that was really the thinking behind it. What I don't think Airbnb is right for everybody. If you don't want to be a property manager, if you don't want to deal with guest complaints, if you don't want to be involved in the day to day,
Yeah.
maybe you invest and maybe you hire a property manager for that. But
Mhm.
there is some work involved. It's not passive by any means.
Not passive, not completely passive. Well, we know that Matt's got a lot of moving pieces. We're trying to bring a lot of this together. I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we know the importance in diversifying our investments to help with growth, but we want to really be able to focus our skills, understanding that number one goal is so vital and important. Before we wrap up today for the show, Matt, I wanted to hear from you, like, how can people learn more from you, kind of get the most value from you, kind of connect from you? Is there anything anywhere where you could where we could be directed to kind of hear from the expert himself? I know you're so active on making content. How can more people get to know you?
Yeah, first and foremost, if you ever want to have a conversation, just reach out. My cell phone, that is my actual cell phone up there on my YouTube right there. My email, it's all publicly available. So if you want to get in touch, please do. I have one on one conversations that are theoretical, that are out of state, that are just pie in the sky. It doesn't matter to me. I really enjoy engaging in this profession. I enjoy engaging in real estate. So if you have specific questions and you're not getting those answers from my content, which I do make a lot of, reach out and we can always engage one on one. I have Calendly links all over the place so that you can schedule time on my calendar. If you're in Chicago, we'll go grab coffee or a drink and we'll get to know each other. If you do want to follow for just consistent real estate advice, like Tanner said, I'm making content on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok pretty regularly. Now Instagram syncs to Facebook. So, hey, Facebook, you're in there too. So it's very easy to find me, connect me, and follow me on any platform that you feel works best for you. I try to deliver similar messaging in the same level of content on each.
Thanks again, Matt. Matt Thomas,
Thank you.
everyone, Chicago investor, online coach, and social media coach. Check him out. Well, everyone, I hope you got a lot of value out of that. That was a lot of fun. We were able to dive into kind of what Matt's got going on. You were able to see some of his content, even the video edits, and how you can set up your own personal brand. We're huge believers in here of building your own personal brand. Your competitive advantage is unique to you and what it is that you do. And how, so maybe we can think of how Matt answered some of these questions, how he represents his brand, how he represents himself. How can we apply that for our own businesses? How can we apply that for ourselves to make ourselves the absolute best version of ourselves? Thanks for checking out our content. If you want to learn more about investing in yourselves and working with me and our company personally, we offer a 6-week Total Life Mastery Bootcamp where we go over the most important topics to make sure that our life has the foundation we need to catapult us forward to take the right and proper actions to become happier and more productive, guaranteed, or our money back.